Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, your boy Clint, coming to you. We are coming off of a winning weekend. Damn, that feels good to say. We are coming off of a phenomenal event. Every single fight was damn entertaining. And on top of that, we made some cash. How y'all doing this evening? I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a sec. Take a deep breath. Let the chat kind of fill up. Let people get in the game here. How is everybody doing? We love our fights. We love our MMA, and it is a great time to be an MMA fan. It looks like my stream is working. We are live on YouTube right now. We are good to go. How's your boy looking, huh? Pretty good. Not bad, right? We got that quarantine haircut thing going on. Mrs. Die Hard MMA podcast took care of the head shave here for me. So nice and clean here for the UFC numbered event. UFC 250 coming up this weekend. How about it? I am all on top of it. This is a good card. People are kind of giving it crap for a couple of spots, but I'll be real with you. This is a good card, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So first things first, I want to go ahead and say thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are getting a bunch of new subscribers. We're getting a bunch of new followers on Twitter and on YouTube. Everything the Die Hard MMA podcast is going the right direction. That is all thanks to you. So thank you so much for the support. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. While I'm saying thank you, I need to say thank you to our sponsors. We have got the GOAT Capital Sports boys who are crushing it. They're doing a good job at MMA themselves, and they are looking forward to coming back with NBA, MLB, all the other major sports. They are absolutely crushing it. Go to goatcapitalsports.com or give them a follow over on Twitter. Let them know that Clint sent you. They sponsor the show, and we like them a whole lot for doing so. Oh, baby, last week. I am so excited to go over. We've got to do a full recap of Saturday's card, and we're going to have to get into it because there was some fun stuff that went on. So buckle up for that, and then we will get into this week's card. Marco Ortega, let's go. You know I was on that fireball. Unfortunately, it's a work night, so no fireball for me right now. But as you guys all know, if you've been with me for a while, I don't need to be drunk to have this kind of energy. Sumner, what's going on? Welcome into the show. I appreciate that. So much fun last week. Good stuff. My boy, Michael Lunday. First off, I need to give this man a shout out. I am so happy that you can tune in live, Michael. Thank you very much for once again supporting the podcast. Michael Lunday is one of those guys that always throws me a little bit of something when he does well on a fight night, and it means the absolute world to me. For everybody else tuning in, I will put my PayPal and my Venmo information in the podcast link below here. I am a one-man show. I am a one-man army. And if you make money on the events, or if you just enjoy the content that I'm putting out, tips and donations are never expected, but they are always appreciated. So thank you very much for that, Michael. I appreciate you, and you are a true fan of the podcast. Pavlov 005 told you Burns would end Woodley's career, and I agreed with you, my friend. I got to apologize, y'all. If you can hear my dog going off in the background, my daughter's out in the backyard swimming, and I don't know what is happening out there. So sorry if my mic is picking that up. I'm hoping it's not. But yes, Pav, I absolutely agree. And hey, we cashed in on Burns, so I was right there with you. Marco got some fireball. That's what I'm talking about. Do a couple of shots for me. I got to let my liver recover until next Saturday. Gregory, welcome in here. Thank you very much. I can't wait to go over the whole card. We've got so much going on. Sports, gambling, daily. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Love hooking up with you guys as well. And my boy Boston Nick in the house. Let's get it. Can't wait. Tomorrow, I will be live with odds.com. As y'all know, I've talked about it a couple times. Odds.com, potential sponsor. I do articles for them over there. Lots of things moving. But I'm going to be breaking down UFC 250 with my boys, Mo Scream, Boston Nick MMA, and Jimmy the Bag. So if you don't get enough of me here, or you just want to hear a couple of extra opinions, we're going to be live tomorrow night. So be sure to tune in for that. Let's freaking go. I'm ready. So let's look at Woodley versus Burns. We got to start at the bottom, though. So much good stuff going on. So first fight of the night, Chris Gutierrez takes on Vince Morales. And this is one that dodging a freaking bullet, baby. Talk about it. There, when I don't pull the trigger on a bet, There's a reason for it, folks. There's a reason I don't pull the trigger on a bet. I really leaned heavily Morales here. I love the way this guy's fights go and the way that the cage was set up for him to be able to use that boxing range and get in the face of a guy like Gutierrez. I mean, I'm absolutely loving this spot for Morales, right? He came out and he shit the bed harder than anybody on the entire freaking card. He had no pop, no energy. He ate 5 calf kicks before he even started moving his hands. I mean, phenomenal performance from Gutierrez. I have to give him absolutely all the credit here. I don't want to take anything away from Gutierrez, but if I were to bet on Vince Morales, I did not, but if I was going to, that wasn't the guy that I bet on. So if anybody out there did bet on Vince Morales, they were incredibly disappointed because he literally just didn't show up. And that's, unfortunately, when it comes to sports betting, that's the kind of shit that just happens. Like, we can't plan when somebody's going to have a bad night. We can't plan when someone's going to have an off day or not be mentally checked in. And you just roll those dice and take that shot. So super happy we dodged a bullet and got away from that one. And yet, that's right. That man probably still is having a hard time walking today. That was a one-sided beatdown, and Chris Gutierrez looked phenomenal. If you bet on him, congratulations. You well deserve that one. Second fight of the night, Luis Smolka, Casey Kenny kicking off our action. This fight couldn't have gone better for us. I mean, Casey Kenny came out and looked like a machine. Bill, my boy, welcome to the chat. Thank you for jumping in. This was something that lately we've been losing every single first fight, right? So had we pulled the trigger on Morales, we would have continued that time-honored tradition of pulling the wrong trigger and having a bad start to a fight night and feeling terrible about ourselves. Instead, we didn't do that. We dodged a bullet, and we feel phenomenal about ourselves because Casey Kenny mauls Luis Smolka. I told you guys, I'm a fan of The Last Samurai. I love Luis Smolka, but Casey Kenny's on another level. I did not expect the submission. I didn't expect a round 1 submission at that. I thought maybe when they get a little tired, when things get a little sloppy, Casey Kenny might like get a ground and pound TKO style finish, but I really didn't see him sinking in a submission that early. Could not believe it. Just absolutely blown away by Casey Kenny's performance. Got our parlay off on the right leg. I am loving that. I got to shout my boy Bill out here, though. Had Chris via TKO prop at plus 1,000. Baby. Oh, I love hearing that. That is gorgeous. Kid, take that cash and run. I love it. Billy Big Boz, 1240. I got to work tomorrow, but here I am. Love it. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Woo! All right, so we start the fight night off on the right foot, and then we roll straight into Brandon Royval versus Tim Elliott. Now, this is another one that I feel like I can't say we dodged a bullet because I wasn't that sold on Tim Elliott, but I did think that Tim Elliott was going to win this fight. This is a good spot for anybody who's new to the podcast. The concept of value in sports betting, especially when it comes to MMA, is just this huge thing that a lot of people don't understand. And in fact, I got absolutely roasted by somebody on Twitter that doesn't understand that concept right after the fights yesterday. So Tim Elliott was a decent-sized favorite. I know a lot of people bet on Pavlov, the newcomer, and if you capped this fight as 50-50, really it could go either way. You want to bet on the underdog. You're flipping a coin, you've got a 50% chance of being right, and the Royval kid you're getting plus 155, plus 160 on, that's the way you want to do it. You've got that extra chance of victory compared to laying minus 180 or something like that on Tim Elliott. And I cautioned everybody not to do that because Tim Elliott is not looking good. He's on the decline, and he's just been getting caught in situations that he didn't used to. So I stayed clear away from it. And there was value on the Brandon Royval side massively, especially if you handicap this thing at a 50-50 and you go ahead and toss that coin. If you were laying minus 180 on Tim Elliott, this was an awful fight from a value perspective. And the people that say it doesn't matter if there's value or not, as long as you win the fight, if you're laying 2-1 on Tim and then saying that you had the right bet, I don't know, it's a bad bet. You know what I mean? It was an even fight. And if you laid that kind of chalk on Tim Elliott, it just wasn't a good bet. I'm not meaning to insult or come after anybody, but that's where if you're saying it's a close fight, it could go either way. One guy's got a path to victory and you're getting plus 150 on it. that's a good bet. And I was wrong on my pick. I was wrong on my prediction. I thought Elliott would pull it out. Another bullet dodged, and I'm looking forward to Brandon Royval. Kid slick. I think he's got a very, very good future in the UFC. Can't wait to see what he does next. Clint did shit in our apple pie. Elliott, no, I didn't bet on him. I'm good. Let's go. Eric Rosas, welcome to the chat. Went 3-3. I love that. Chuk by decision. Congrats on that. Burns. And then the over 3.5. Sneaky on that over 3.5. Very, very good bet. That was awesome. Elliott looked like a minus 400 till he gassed. I don't know if I quite agree with that. I guess that's a debate for a different day. I don't want to burn all my podcast time debating that fight. But, I mean, if you think that he looked like he was that big of a favorite, I mean, maybe so. Maybe so. On the fights that I don't have a ton of action on, I know I'm going to review them. I'm going to go back and watch them at a different day, preparing for the next fight, that kind of thing. I don't always focus 100%. And I'm usually with family. So I may have missed that, but some other people should let me know if I'm missing something on that Tim Elliott fight. I don't know that he looked like a minus 400. I'm not sure I agree with that. But next fight of the night, Jamal Hill, Klitzen, Abreu. This is the one. This might be, you know what? I'm going to have to say second. This will be my second favorite bet of the evening because everyone and their mom bet on Klitzen Abreu. That line crashed. I mean, Jamal Hill was like a minus 175, minus 180 opener, and he closed almost the underdog. The line damn near flipped. It wasn't until he got to minus 110 that there was finally some buyback on the other side. You were talking about even money. And then he comes out and wrecks Abreu. The people that were all standing up and beating their chest, and Abreu's the best bet on the card. He's going to take Hill down. Not only did he not take Hill down, Hill never even let him inside of his jab. I thought we were going to have to defend one takedown. I thought we were going to have to get up from one sketchy situation. Hill didn't even let that happen. Hill's striking is phenomenal. And then the frame on this kid, the way he works behind the jab, the athleticism, he is freaking awesome. I am all in on Jamal Hill. And I loved this bet because I feel sharp as fuck. And I know I'm not a professional sports bettor or anything like that, but waiting on the favorite, a minus 175 favorite, to get all the way down to minus 125 for us to hit him, talk about value. That is value. We risked a whole lot less on the same exact bet, and we made just as much as everybody else did. That was a phenomenal performance, and I hope he has a quick turnaround. He didn't take any damage whatsoever with the state of the world right now, with how they're churning and burning these cards. I hope that we see Hill again very, very soon. My boy Cole in the house. Didn't know if we'll see a line that small on Hill for a while. No, sir. But you know what? I know a lot of people on Twitter who are still not sold on this kid. Everyone is still saying, but he didn't have to defend the takedown. But if Klitzen Abreu had gotten the takedown, there's no questions that have been answered yet. I'm blown away. I'm absolutely floored. I don't know how people can look at this and not be sold on this kid. Yes, we've never seen him in a bad position on his back before at this point, but he's got to be working on that. The athleticism and the strength of this kid, you've got to know that that's something he's working on in the back. And then his IQ, to be able to keep a guy that's a body lock and takedown submission threat at the very end of his fist instead of letting him anywhere near him, just that thinking game. And that's where smart fighters, I love betting on smart fighters. It's just, so good. Can't wait to bet on Hill again. You're right, though. We're probably going to have to pay a price. Thank you, my friend. Good call on Burns. Glad we got on Hill. Loving it. All right. And then Klitzen Abreu fell in and out of love with his striking. Beautiful reference there, Nick. I love it. Gregory. Yeah, see, not sold yet. There is a lot of people who are not sold yet. What's up, Arthur? Thank you very much for joining the chat. And live is where it's at, my friend. I get to interact directly with you. Once again, as always, I got to give a shout out to the people who are listening to this audio only later on, Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or something like that. You're missing out. Come join me on YouTube. If I sound like I'm losing my way a little bit, it's because I'm talking to the people in the chat. So if you're a member of the Die Hard Horde, get in here for these live streams. Follow me on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod. I put these things out plenty of notice so you can be ready and jump in. He comes in aggressive, puts his own pace. Don't let guys even take him down. Exactly. That is where it's at. There's a reason Hill hasn't been in a bad position. Michael Lunday, my boy, you are absolutely correct. That's what's up, and that's what people need to realize. And he's just accruing those hours. He's getting that time in the cage, and that's just so important for a growing prospect. He needs that. Let's see here. Octagon time and skill, something that I need to see how he handles them in the moment. It's true, Gregory, but so far, every single time he's hit any type of adversity, he's overcome it. And it's the sign of a winner to me. The fact that he's been able to make that jump, he's been able to defend every single bad spot and come out on the other side on top. I think it'll be the same thing when he does finally hit the mat. He's going to have to face best guys now, but he puts his fights at his own pace. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here, for sure. I hope they take it slow with him and they don't rush him to the top like they did some of the other 205 contenders, because he could be a big deal. Krokop coming back for a fight with Fedor. I didn't hear about that, but I mean, when you get those old saggy bastards, go for it, man. You know, if you want to fight, if you want one more opportunity to cash a check, you go for it. Connor McLaughlin, what is up, buddy? Welcome into the live show. Thank you for joining me. My boy UFC Bro Picks, Justin in the house. You guys got to stick around. I guess Justin and my boy Kelton are going on later this evening. They will be talking about the card as well. So if you don't get your fill of MMA content, they will be going live this evening. And once again, I've got to apologize for the damn dog. I don't know why he's barking. Usually my wife steps in and calms him down or something like that. I don't know what's going on tonight. Let's move on. Daniel Rodriguez taking on Gabe Green. That was a hell of a fight. I mean, for two guys that were both short notice replacements, you know, no real expectations for either man. Back and forth battle. They went to war. That was a fun fight. I don't have much else to say about it beyond that. I think both guys, you know, they're still going to need to get an MMA test. Oh, thank you for letting me know that you guys can't hear the barking, Nick. I appreciate that. Now I can shut up about the dog if he starts going off in the background. That's good news. And then the preliminary card finale, Caitlin Chukagian taking on Antonina Shevchenko. I made a late addition to my action. I went ahead and added Shevchenko by decision. And I feel so bad. What am I doing? I'm so awful. This is one of those ones that I could have just left it alone. I didn't want to lay the wood on Shevchenko, so I took the prop by decision. And even getting the plus odds on it going to decision, oh my God, it was just so bad. I mean, I'm the one who abused Antonina Shevchenko when she fought Roxanne Modafferi, right? I know just how bad her takedown game is. And I got tricked into it because we've never seen Chukagian take anybody down. We've never seen her grappling ability. We've never seen her wrestling ability. And you had to think that this is something Shevchenko worked on. Like, how do you not, at this stage in your MMA career, go, I know I've got this hole, and I need to patch that hole to be at all competitive? And she just never did. So all of you and the rest of the world who cashed in on Caitlin Chukagian as a nice-sized dog, congratulations. You guys are awesome. That is a sharp bet. Taking Chuk as an underdog. She never should have been the underdog, and that's a hindsight ass-kicking for your boy. So I apologize. Caitlin Chukagian gets wadded up and sent straight to the trash bin because of that takedown defense. I thought she would be working on it, and apparently she has not been. Because if Caitlin Chukagian, who's somebody who doesn't have a known wrestling offensive game, and even the fact that she's so bad, man. Caitlin Chukagian had a sunk-in choke for 3 minutes in the first round and couldn't put this girl with no ground game away. Caitlin Chukagian is a fraud, and I'm going to successfully fade her. I should have beat her when she fought JJ. I got robbed that night. I got overzealous, and I took Shevchenko, and I was wrong. I will beat Caitlin Chukagian. You watch. One of these days, I'm going to get her. She's a flawed fighter, and she's not as good as people think she is. You think Valentina will not be there? Was a big loss. Yeah. You know what? Maybe it was. That might have played into it, but I don't know. Antonina just looked like she had no answer for the ground game whatsoever, so I'm not sure Valentina being there would have really done much of anything. Moving on to the main card. Try to keep this bad boy rolling. My girl, Mackenzie Dern, taking on Hannah Cifers. Admittedly, she struggled at the beginning just a little bit, but we knew that was a possibility. Cifers has underrated hands. She's tough. She's durable. That girl loves to bring the fight. And Dern just got the damn thing done. As soon as she saw her window, she wrapped up a leg. And as soon as I saw her dive on that ankle, I was like, it's over. It's over. She was upside down on Hannah Cifers' leg. And you know the level of BJJ that Dern brings to the table. I knew she was going to snap off a submission as soon as she got that position, and it ended shortly thereafter. So if you took that submission prop, if you took that round 1 prop, congratulations. Otherwise, we cashed a 2-unit bomber. The parlay closes with Mackenzie Dern. That was some of the easiest money I have ever made, parlaying Kenny and Dern. It was a good time. Good way to start the night. We only dropped 1 bet at this point, but we're already looking solid. Let's see here. It's true. Yep, that's right, Connor. It's true. We will fade her against the better fighter. I hope even if she rematches JJ, I'd bet JJ again, although it's probably going to be a coin flip price again and maybe not worth it. How do you think the small cage played into Chuk's game? I mean, honestly, again, in that particular fight, Antonina was just so bad. I don't know that it mattered. Yeah, she was able to close the distance a little bit easier, but Antonina wasn't offering any resistance or anything like that to begin with. So, yikes, it was just a bad spot. Blue Fire, I don't think I know you, my friend. Welcome to the chat. New name jumping in here. I love it. What was Cifers thinking when she jumped on Dern? Hey, that's, people, these fighters, they're confident in themselves. That's something you train, you get ready for what your opponent's going to offer, and you think you've got it under control, and you don't really know until you get in there. So I think she just felt like she knew what she was doing and was wrong. It'll happen. So Roosevelt Roberts and Brock Weaver. I had that weird sneaky suspicion about Brock Weaver, so I laid off of this one. Turns out I was a little bit off, and Roosevelt Roberts just did the damn thing. Got him by a second-round submission, which was very impressive. I know a lot of people took that prop as well, the sub prop, and I don't know. Brock looked good up until that point, I felt like. It wasn't a one-sided beatdown until the second round. Roosevelt really cranked it up into a next level that I just don't think Brock is capable of. I'm a fan of Brock, but honestly, I don't think he belongs at the UFC level. And especially if they're going to try and make a name out of him, they're going to make him the native cowboy type of thing where it's like, the Native Americans rally behind this guy and cheer for him. I think there's a market there for him, but they got to be very careful with the people they match him up against because he's not good and he's going to have a hard time getting wins at the UFC level. He's got heart. He's durable. He hits hard. I mean, these are all great things, but he's not good UFC level anywhere. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a tough road for Brock Weaver, unfortunately. And then we've got Billy Quarantillo versus Spike Carlisle. This is a fight. Oh boy. Okay. So this is the one that I got trashed on online talking about value because I absolutely believe we were on the right side here. I know we lost the bet and the bottom line is all that matters to some people. Whether they won the bet or lost the bet is all that matters. But when you're talking long-term success in gambling, if you're flipping a coin and you're flipping that coin at plus 125 or plus 150 over and over and over, you have a much more profitable chance. You have a much better chance of winning in the long run. And that's where, this was a back and forth fight. And I scored rounds 1 and 2 for Spike Carlisle. What I think happened was at the end of round 2, Spike got up with like 5 seconds left on the clock and walked back to his corner. The guy's a special kind of crazy, and I love that about him, but I don't know what that was. That was maybe he just lost his focus. Maybe he thought he heard the bell. It's one of those weird spots where you really can't tell what happened. We don't really know why he did that. And the fact that Billy was able to lunge in and land a big bomb on him and kind of knock him down at the end of the round. I am a firm believer, I will stand by this, that one punch does not win you a round. Unless you about killed your guy, unless you're Yoel Romero and you take their head off and they somehow manage to come back from it and fight their way through and make it kind of an even round, then that one punch matters. But Spike Carlisle was winning round 2 all the way through, in my opinion, until that punch landed. But it puts an impression on the judges. The judges see some guy get dropped at the end of the round, and they're like, oh, he won. He got it. He got the best of it. Unfortunately, that's part of the sport. That's a thing that happens. And I think maybe we were the beneficiary of that bad judging because I don't think anybody who knows what they're talking about in MMA would go, well, okay, that's a little strong. Round 2 was close. I can understand you saying that you think Billy won round 2, but I absolutely think that Spike won round 2. And at worst, we should have gotten a split decision here. It shouldn't have been unanimous 2 rounds to 1 for Billy. That's where I think it was a little bit wrong, and the judges may have overvalued that knockdown in the second round. Unfortunately, we have to brush ourselves off here and move on with the loss, but I do think that we won that bet. And even though we didn't win that bet, Spike was close enough to winning it that we absolutely had value on that plus 135. So not a bet that I regret whatsoever. Still a huge fan of the Alpha Ginger, and I'll be looking forward to his next fight. I also will be looking forward to Billy's next fight. I made that very clear in the initial breakdown that I very much respect Billy. I think he's got a good skill set. The fact that he's got that downhill slope kind of power that he will just cook you from the top position. He will stay on top of you, wear you out, and as you fade, he gets stronger. That's a great skill set. We need to make sure we remember Billy Quarantillo for the future because this kid is a solid prospect. How's number 6 and number 9 in the division co-main event? When you have the number 2 versus the 4 fighting for the number 1 contender. Do you mean for UFC 250? That's number 6, number 9 in the division of the co-main event. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, Pav. Let me know, just so I kind of have an idea and can assess that. Yes, I would bet the same way again, plus 110. Spike did get a gas in the third. You know what, though? He's one of those weird guys that even though he gasses out, he is mentally strong enough to make his body continue working. He was absolutely gassed, but he was throwing spinning elbows all the way to the end of the fight. And that's a sign to me. That's another bet on sign for Spike Carlisle. The fact that he goes, dude, you're tired, but do this reversal. Get on top. Throw the elbow. Even though you're worn out, he still fights tooth and nail to the very last second. And that's a dog that I will always take that stab on. Spike was robbed, period. I mean, I wouldn't use the R word. I think the robbery gets thrown around a little lightly in MMA these days, but I do think Spike won. I'm with you on that one. I have Billy live, even though I love Spike. Yeah. If you took Billy live, I know my boy Rockstar Z told everybody on his podcast that if Billy survives the first round to bet on him live and you can get, even money or plus 115, something like that on him. And that worked out perfectly. If you did that, you go for it. UFC 205. So yeah, we'll talk about that, Pav, as we get into the next card. We're almost done with the recap, so stick with me here for just 1 second. I do agree with you that the lineup at UFC 205 is a little bit weird. Yep, Blue Fire, same thing. Thought Spike won. And yeah, Connor, absolutely love the heart that comes on Spike Carlisle. That guy's he's gonna be a fan favorite coming in the future. Even if he never makes it to a title or anything like that, he's always gonna be in exciting fights. That's just the way it is. So co-main event, Blagoy Ivanov versus Augusto Sakai. And at this point in the night, we are up just a little bit. And I tweeted out, if Sakai wins, we win, because it guarantees us up 2 units going into our 1 unit bet on the main event. This was such a big fight for us, because if we had lost this one, we would have to count on Gilbert Burns getting the job done for us to have a profitable night. And I don't want to be in that position. Even though I liked my bet on Gilbert Burns, even though I thought Gilbert Burns was going to win, I don't want to be even going into the main event. I always want to be free rolling my last bet of the night. And what fence grab? I know everybody was losing their minds over the fence grab, but here's the deal. Your boy was about 12 shots deep on Fireball at this point in the evening. I saw about half of each round because I don't remember the rest of it. And I legitimately didn't see the fence grab. So when when they went to the judges' scorecards, I knew it was going to be close. I knew it was going to be hairy because let's face it, that's the way that freaking Blagoy Ivanov fights every single time. But I didn't have any idea that the fence grab had ever happened at that point in time. And it wasn't until I saw the explosions later on Twitter that I was like, oh shit, I might have got away with one there. But either way, we cash in on Augusto Sakai. I will take the W. And if you follow my articles and check them out, which, by the way, I'm going to start linking them in the YouTube comments below, forodds.com. Please do me a favor, check them out. Click the articles. It would go a real long way for me. I went ahead and gave out Augusto Sakai at plus 200, the decision prop. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know why I didn't take that on my official action. when you do the articles, so here's the thing. When I'm writing articles for like a sponsor or I'm doing freelance, that kind of thing, I have to write what they tell me to. So if I get to cover a certain fight, if they want a prop, if they want an underdog, I've got to find that angle myself, right? So I took that prop with Augusto Sakai winning by decision because I thought it would go to decision, and then you're getting plus 200 on your coin flip instead of minus 110. It makes perfect sense. And then I turned around and I laid the wood on my actual action with Augusto Sakai, which is why I'm not crediting myself with that plus 200 right now. If I was a shady capper, if I was one of these people that pads their records, which y'all know I'm not, I will never lie to you guys. I'm open, transparent, tell you my record and everything. I could sit here and go, hey, I gave you an article with plus 200 on Augusto Sakai by decision, so I get 2 more units. Nah, I bet Augusto Sakai straight. I'm an idiot. I'm a complete moron. I gave you all the read. I gave you the free information. I told you that's the way it was going to go, and that was the value play. And then I didn't fucking bet it myself. I'm a complete asshole. So we miss out on a free unit there, but Augusto Sakai gets it done. I am officially 2-1. I'm sorry, 1-2. I don't know why I flipped that every time. I'm 1-2 fading Blagoy Ivanov. The man is not impressive whatsoever. He fights close. He finds ways to get these damn takedowns, and he's a thorn in my side at heavyweight, but I know that there is money to be made fading that man, and we're going to keep trying. We just have to be careful with these positions because, damn, we almost lost that one. Glad you are not impressed with Ivanov. You did say in the middle of the road. Yep, exactly. Exactly. I'm glad you cashed in on Sakai. Congratulations. Would Spike have won if he didn't walk away and get dropped? Actually, Billy, I think he would have. I think that's what it came down to. I can't speak for the judges, but in a very, very close back and forth round, when the last thing you see is one guy taking a big bomb and dropping, even if it didn't hurt, he got caught off guard, he fell to the ground. They probably gave the round to Billy. I absolutely think if he just stays on top and the last thing in the judge's brain is Spike is on top of Billy, it's unanimous for Spike the other direction. I honestly believe that. The fence grab by Sky saved him from losing the fight. I mean, yeah, probably, because he probably doesn't get back up with what, like 2 or 3 minutes left on the clock. That's what it was. No points taken, then it's irrelevant. Yeah, and that's where I heard, I think it was the Kenny Florian podcast, where they were talking about how the referee shouldn't have taken a point because there was no warning. It was the first time, but he should have given the position to Ivanov. And honestly, I agree with that. They should have put Sakai on the mat and given Ivanov top position. I'm with you though, Billy. I will take that win and I will run. So Sakai becomes really, really underrated. His only loss to Czech Congo via split decision. Yeah, he's a good, solid heavyweight prospect, but he's also flawed. I think if he improves just a little bit, he's somebody that we can make some money with going forward. More aggressive, the leg kicks. That was one of my big points. I think that's something that was the big key for me. And then defending the takedown, which we saw how that went. He probably couldn't have defended the takedown, so he's still got some work to do for sure. Sometimes it's easier to get advice for doing himself. Yeah, that's very true. Read on Birds was good, dude. I regret passing. Thank you and welcome to the chat, my friend. I appreciate it. With that comment, let's bounce right on into the main event, shall we? Gilbert freaking Burns versus Tyron Woodley. I told you all to get on this runaway freight train. And on top of that, it was more of a read on Woodley, I feel like, than it was a read on Burns. Burns is a straight bet on right now. He is a guy that I pinpointed from a mile away, tossed a dart and stuck it and went, I'm betting that guy. He's got world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He trained with Kamaru Usman. His wrestling is ever improving. He is durable. He's mean. Now he's got a left hook that's capable of knocking out one of the most durable fighters in the division. Burns has all the pieces he needs to be a title challenger. He really does. And you give me an opportunity to go against a Tyron Woodley who is checked out. He wants nothing to do with this fight game anymore. He is not a fighter. I love Tyron Woodley. I was a huge fan of Tyron Woodley. I made a ton of money betting on Tyron Woodley. He ain't there anymore. It's not the same guy. And that's the harsh reality of the fight game, is that eventually something slips. And these guys, this is the top 1% of human beings in the world that are fighting for us right now. And when you lose, when you go from your 100% peak to your 85%, just not quite what you were, but you're fighting the top 5, it ain't enough. So if he's mentally checked out, if he slows down just 10% speed on his hands, the guys that are the best in the world are going to take full advantage of that. And that's exactly what happened. And the fact that Gilbert Burns brings zero respect to the table for anybody, he charged him down and busted him open and put him on his back straight away. That made me feel so good. The people that were like, man, Burns, he's not going to be able to take Woodley down. And then in round 1, he's like, Woodley's on his ass. I couldn't believe it. And I was so excited. That made me feel so damn good. Needless to say, we cashed the bet plus 155 and we were rolling. Good night. 4-2 on the official plays, plus 3.55 units. If I had taken my own damn advice, it would be plus 455 units, but I don't care. It's a winning night. We will take it. So far, since the UFC has returned, we are net positive, folks, and I am digging myself out of that hole that I began 2020 with. For those of you who are just now tuning into the podcast, my new listeners, my new followers, I had a rough start to the year. I dug myself a 15-unit hole at the beginning of 2020 because I just zigged when I should have zagged. I had a couple of really brutal decisions go against me. I had some bad beats go against me, like the Michel Pereira and Diego Sanchez fight. I mean, like, everything that could have possibly gone wrong was going wrong. And that's variance. When it comes to sports betting and like poker playing, anything gambling related, you're going to do this. There's going to be peaks and valleys, highs and lows. It'll happen. And that's where everyone was calling me washed up, a scrub. I don't know what I'm talking about. I really do. It just sometimes, you're locking human beings in a cage and shit happens and stuff happens like the Spike Carlisle fight where a judge sees something differently than I maybe would have and we get on the wrong side of a decision and unfortunately we lose cash. That's the game we have signed up to play, and it sucks sometimes. So very, very happy to kind of be on that bounce back train. We got a long way to go to be profitable in 2020, but we're going to do it. We've got half of the year to get there, and we're going to fucking do it. And on top of that, we have a goal for the rest of the half year. So by the end of 2020, I want to be out of this hole. I want to be profitable, let's say 30 units. That's the goal I'm going to set for myself. I want to be up 30 units at the end of 2020. So I've got to make up 15 units and stack 30. That's hard. Let's go 20. We got to make up those 15 units, which I think we've chopped it down to 11 at this point. So we've got to make up those 11 units, and I want to be up 20 units at the end of the year. That's the goal. Everybody pray for me. And then I also want to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're hanging out with me today, do me a favor, hit the like button, share the show with a friend, and hit that subscribe button so you can be a member of the Die Hard Horde. Brandon Dorino, that is right. Burns came through big for me too, Billy. Burns came through for everybody. I hope you all made some cash. Pav, is that real? Woodley wants to move to 185? Okay, I don't know. That guy, I'm sorry. Woodley's gone off the deep end. He needs to have 1 or 2 lower level fights, cash a check or 2, and then bounce. He's just completely done. And yeah, Billy, 5 underdogs in 5 events. Absolutely wild. And the worst part is I've called every single one of them. No, I'm sorry. I'm 4 out of 5 because I did not call Charles Oliveira. I was on my boy, the Phenom. So I'm 4 out of 5 on the main events. And unfortunately, I only actually bet 2 of those, even though I called the other 2. So not nearly as impressive as it sounds when it comes to cash in my pocket. Burns was a beast. Called it 100% and great money. And that's the thing. When you get a guy as dangerous as Burns at plus money, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Got to take it. And Connor, yes, my friend, screw the haters, peaks and valleys. That's what I'm talking about. And you know what? You guys will all know I am all about positivity. I am all about, winning together, being friendly, high-fiving each other when we win. If Burns had lost and Tyrone Woodley came through, I've got a couple of buddies that laid some serious wood on Tyrone Woodley. Not, no pun intended there. I'd have given them a high five. Yeah, I'm pissed off my bet lost, but my boy made some cash. I'm excited for you. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be so much of this dick measuring contest where we're whipping them out every single week and fuck you if you didn't agree with me. And I just hate that narrative. I hate that mindset that is the general gambling mentality, especially on gambling Twitter. Burns by decision at plus 500. You animal, you absolute monster, my boy Cole cashing in. I never thought this fight would see the cards. Well, I never as strong. I thought there was a chance, but I didn't think there was that good of a chance. I wasn't actually going to bet it. At any rate, that concludes our wrap-up of Fight Night Woodley versus Burns. And I apologize. I spent a little longer on that one than I wanted to, but I'm excited. So let's move on. We're going to talk about UFC 250, folks. Let's get into this card. And I got to tell you, I don't know what it is, but the promo stuff, where they do the paint on the faces, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's freaking cool. So we are going to kick the night off. We've got the early prelims, if this page will work with me. And speaking of Burns, we got little Burns. Herbert is stepping into the cage. He's taking on Evan Dunham. And right now, he's a minus 280 favorite. Now, this is one of those things where I am not quite sure how to read this. I love Herbert Burns. I think he's got a good, solid game. He's right behind his brother, so he's going to have a similar skill set. He's wicked on the ground, decent wrestling, but we haven't seen a whole lot of his striking. The last time out, he flatlined Nate Landwehr, and that was something that I didn't see coming because he's never shown his striking before. So with that one knee, was that an accident? Was that a fluke? Did he throw it up and Nate dove into it and he got knocked out? Or did Burns time that and he deserves the credit for that amazing knee? I don't know. The answer is I don't know. So I think Burns deserves to be the favorite in this fight. I absolutely think Burns deserves to be the favorite in this fight because he's taking on Evan Dunham, who's coming off retirement. Anytime you've got a fighter who's got the R word in his brain, you just – if he's checked out and now he's trying to get back because he missed it, because he got that desire back. It's very, very rare that we see those guys actually come back in. And honestly, I think that this is a fight where the UFC is trying to take advantage of this. I think the UFC went, oh, Evan Dunham, you're struggling. And we've got this other kid that we really want to make look good. So I kind of feel like this is a setup fight. Evan Dunham does his best work on the mat, and I think that's going to play straight into Herbert's game. So I don't know if he should be a 3-1 favorite in this spot, but I do think he wins the fight, and I do think he deserves to be the favorite. I don't know how I'm quite going to handle this one yet. I tossed the idea of throwing Burns in a parlay, but I'm not sure if I should trust him quite that much just yet. So right now, there's no action for me on this one, but I'm definitely going to take a look at the round totals and the props, stuff like that as they come out. And I do think that Herbert Burns gets the win here. Just not sure exactly how. So we'll have to do a little bit of research. Something that I want to let you all know, I'm going to be doing the round table with my boys, Mo Scream, Jimmy the Bag, Boston Nick, on Tuesdays from now on, sponsored and brought to you by odds.com. Subscribe over at Odds HQ here on YouTube to tune in for that. Please give us some support. But because of that, the podcast is probably going to be like this live on Mondays from now. Research on Mondays. That's been really one of my big days to kind of line things up and figure some stuff out, do some tape study. I do a lot of that stuff on Monday. Now I've got to crunch it all in to Friday, Saturday, Sunday to be ready for a Monday live show instead. So I might be adding some late action. This might become a thing where I have to just kind of fess up to the fact that I'm not done researching a fight, and I'll tweet out my action when I get there later. There might be a little bit more of that because I've got one less day to prep. I'm going to try to be sharp for you guys, but just a heads up. Betting should be about doing right decisions and making money, not about emotions. That's absolutely true. Betting should be about making the right decisions, and it should never be emotional. It's hard sometimes when you're a fan of the sport, and I know that's something that other people struggle with. I struggle with that because when you're a fan of a fighter and you want to see them win, there's this little thing in your brain that says that they're better than they actually are. I have fallen into that trap several times, and it's something that I'm still working on. And that's right, Marco, 250 is straight fire. People complaining about this card doesn't make sense to me. The undercard has legit up-and-coming contenders, going to be barn burner fights. The main card is stacked, and even if you're not a huge fan of the women who are headlining it, the main card is well worth the price tag. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed the recap. I love doing recaps. I know they're not everybody's favorite thing, but I have a whole lot of fun with the recaps. Hooper wins by sub. Bill, give me a minute. We'll get there. We will get there. Herbert gonna win. All right, let's get this thing rolling. So next fight, Alonzo Menifield taking on Devin Brown Bear Clark. If you have been with me for some time, you know I hate the Brown Bear. If you're new, guess what? I hate Devin Clark. I don't think he's a good fighter. The man is too small for 205. He's only a 205er from the waist down, and that is not a dick joke. He's got these thick-ass legs and a big ass. So he's explosive. He can come in, he can explode, he can light people up, close the distance. He has that for sure. But he doesn't really have the power to back it up. So even though he's fast and explosive, it just somehow doesn't seem to translate to knockouts. You'd think that it would, but it doesn't. And then even though he's supposed to be a very strong, explosive, powerful wrestler, he is struggling with other true 205ers. He can't get them on the mat. He can't get them down or hold them there. So Devin is this guy. I think he's 5-4 so far in the UFC. He is barely over 500. In my opinion, he's going to be a 500 fighter after this week. And most of the guys that he's beaten aren't even in the UFC anymore. So he is kind of the measuring stick. He's the bottom of the 205-pound division. If you belong in the UFC, you beat Devin Clark. And that's just the end of the story. Alonzo Menifield is a monster. This dude's 9-0, undefeated, very raw, though. He's extremely explosive, and he always charges his opponent to start the fight is something that I noticed. He likes to get right in there, get right in their face. He's got very basic striking. He's got a 1-2 that he throws constantly, but that 2 hits so damn hard. This dude's got incredibly strong hips. He's hard to take down. He's actually got surprisingly good balance for a man his size. And he's got this clubbing right hook that just, like, it doesn't seem like there's any technique behind it, but it's so strong. He knocks people around with that thing. He's one of these guys that I'm very close to christening him with the term death touch. There are very few fighters that I will say have the death touch, because there's power, there's big power, and then there's death touch. That's the ranking I use for punching power in the UFC. I need to make I need to have some graphics behind me with the rankings of the power punching. But death touch is my number 1. Francis Ngannou has the death touch. Nico Price has the death touch. Justin Gaethje has the death touch. Alonzo Menifield might have the death touch. At any rate, he's a pretty decent-sized favorite right now. Alonzo Menifield is currently a -230 with the comeback +190 on Brown Bear. And I don't know who would ever bet Brown Bear in this situation. I mean, the only path to victory for him is to smash Alonzo up against the fence, get those big, powerful arms filled up with blood, wear him out, drag him deep. Now, Brown Bear is coming off of a fight with Ryan Superman Spann. And Spann is a training partner of Alonzo Menifield. So you got to think Menifield is more than ready for Devin Clark, because he probably helped Ryan Spann train for this guy. And if he didn't help him, his coaches did. So they're going to have all of their P's and Q's ready to go to take out Devin Clark, and Spann got it done. So I got to think Menifield is going to be able to get it done as well. On top of that, Devin Clark always tends to gas out. When he's fighting these bigger, stronger guys, he just can't keep up the pace that he tries to set on these people. And Menifield is going to catch him. As soon as Devin Clark slows down, I think Menifield's going to land one of those big haymakers, and Devin Clark doesn't have much of a chin. When Menifield touches him, I just think it's going to be over. Menifield's got this killer instinct too. If Brown Bear goes down, he's going to jump on him, and he's just going to swarm him. Something I worry about, though, is Menifield maybe gassing himself out by swarming in that kind of a situation. I'm not sure if he has the composure at this point to rein it in, pull back, and pick his shots. But I do think he gets the KO. I mean, he's coming off of a knockout of Paul Craig, where my boy Paul Craig got incredibly stupid. I bet on Paul Craig on that one because I saw a hole in Alonzo's game that I thought Paul Craig could fill, and he was doing a good job up until he threw his 3rd spinning back kick in a row. But, the losses that Devin Clark has in the UFC, he's been finished every time. And that's what concerns me. If this guy is not the hammer, he's a very bad nail. And I think that Alonzo Menifield's going to get him. So I know I've spent a little more time on this one than I should. I apologize. But I think Alonzo Menifield gets the knockout. He may be a parlay piece. This is another one, kind of why I'm really looking at Burns very closely, is I think I want to use Alonzo Menifield as a parlay piece, but I'm not sure who I want to tie him with just yet. So look out on the Twitter later for that one. I'm still trying to figure this parlay thing out because I'm not quite sure what I want to do. Our next fight is one that I'm very, very excited about. We've got Jussier Formiga. Jussier. Not sure if that's a H or a J sound. Taking on Alex Perez. And I'm very, very excited for this. So let me pull this up here. I apologize. I am getting the stats and information up so I can actually read stuff off to you like I know what I'm talking about. So Formiga's 35 years old. He's 23-7, and he's taking on Alex Perez, who is 28 years old, 23-5. So relatively solid experience for Alex Perez, and he's going to have a youth advantage here, and that's always something you want to be on the side of, right? Because it's a young man's game. That's just the simple fact of the matter. Formiga, however, has a much, much higher level of competition on his record than Perez does. So he's taken out Ben Wynn, Sergio Pettis, and he has a win over current number one contender and uncrowned champion Davison Figueiredo just last year in 2019. He is on a 2-fight skid, though. He lost to Joseph Benavidez, the other side of that current uncrowned champion situation. And then he lost a very, very close, tight, hairy decision to Brandon Moreno. Now, we did officially fade him. We were on Brandon Moreno that night, and we cashed in with some good dog money because people are always underestimating my boy Brandon Moreno. But it was a good fight. It was a close back-and-forth fight, and Formiga had his spots. He's a phenomenal grappler. That's the main key point when looking at Formiga, is that he's so good on the mat. He cuts nice angles on the feet, though, and he's actually surprisingly good at striking. He does keep his hands up nice and tight. I like to see the high boxing guard. He manages distance well, and he's got some pop on his punches, surprisingly so for a guy that goes to the ground so much. If he gets you on the mat, though, you're in trouble. Excellent entries on his takedowns, heavy, smothering, sick top control. He uses the body lock to get people to the mat extremely well, and he is also a chain grappler. He likes to follow up his takedown attempts with trips and things like that. You're going to have a hard time keeping it on the feet with this guy. When he is on the feet, he also attacks the calf, which I really love to see, because if he can slow his opponents down or get them to wobble just a little bit, that makes the takedowns come easier later in the fight. He's very aggressive with his submissions. He'll jump on guillotines, and a lot of times you don't want to see that because guys will end up on their back. But if this fight gets to the mat, I'm good with Formiga being on his back. He will sweep. He'll take the back. He'll find a way to reverse situations. He's good with chokes and attacks off of his back. No problem with Formiga going to the mat on his back. Most people, you don't want that. Formiga, I'm okay with. Alex Perez on the flip side of this thing, like I said, he's got youth on his side, very good striking, good head movement. He's got a high, tight guard as well, protects himself, but he overextends on his punches. He can be countered, and that's something I noticed a lot. Actually, in his last couple of fights, in his last 3, he only has one loss, and that was to Joseph Benavidez. But he got handled by Joe. That was that weird one where Joe basically took him out, and the referee stepped in to stop it. And I don't know why, but then he stepped back and was like, no, keep going. He's not out yet. He's not out yet. And it was ridiculous. Joe Benavidez had the opportunity to basically finish this kid twice in the same night. And he did. I mean, he TKO'd him the first time. The ref should have stopped it. The second time, he really TKO'd him, and it was over. Since then, he's bounced back. But Perez has faced Mark De La Rosa, who's a scrub. Let's not mince words here. Now, for those of you who are new, I know I've got a lot of new followers right now. I respect fighters. I absolutely love and respect fighters. So if I say anything degradatory, it's mostly for entertainment, and it's also because when it comes to sports betting, we have to be brutally honest. So I may fire off a couple of hot takes here and there. Mark De La Rosa's garbage. And then Jordan Espinoza is a strong athletic wrestler, and that's about it. So very one-dimensional, and I just am not sold on that kid yet. I like Jordan Espinoza. I think he's a good prospect, but when you get to the higher level, he gets handled, and that's what happened. He got choked here. So Alex Perez is a submission threat. He's a grinder, and I don't think that plays well against a guy like Formiga. I think this is a beautiful buy low spot on Formiga, because right now we've got Formiga as a plus 120 underdog, the favorite being Alex Perez at minus 140, and I think that should be flipped. So far, Perez has yet to prove himself at the next level, whereas Formiga has absolutely proven himself. And since he's coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, we are getting an awesome opportunity to bet dog money on a fighter who should realistically be in the title picture. I mean, he's only removed 1 or 2 fights from being right there in the mix, and he beat the guy who's probably the current champion. He handled Davison for a full 15 minutes. And I think this is a very similar setup type of fight. I think Davison Figueiredo is a better version of Alex Perez. So if Formiga can handle Perez, I don't think he's fallen off in the last year. I don't think he's faded so much that we should say he shouldn't be the favorite here. I think the wrong guy is favored. I think there's value on Formiga, and I've smashed him. I've already locked it up. That is a bet that I've made. First bet on the card is Jussier Formiga at plus 120. I like to start my night off with the underdogs. Let's freaking go. I'm going to go ahead and get caught up here on the chat. My boy Cole agreeing with me. Round 1 TKO. You know what, Cole? I actually think it's going to be round 2. I do kind of think that Brown Bear might survive that long. Cadmere, welcome into the chat. Recaps are why I'm here. I like to hear that. That is some good stuff. Adam, what's up, buddy? Mr. Punching Walls and Fidget Spinners calms me down, Arkansas. Okay. Let's see. Clark too small for the division. Absolutely. Alonzo's small too, and they are the same size, which that's another thing that kind of worries me, but I think that power is going to make up for it. I like Alonzo for a parlay. And yes, Pav, exactly. Alonzo's never been 3 rounds in his career. So if he doesn't get that finish, it might be a problem. Cadmere agrees with me for Formiga by decision. Love to see that. Pav, you as well. Paul Craig, BJJ coach, help me with my psychotherapy. Oh, that is freaking cool. Awesome, Billy. I'm glad to hear that. I love those kind of people. They're so helpful and awesome. Let's get the sports gag. My boy Jay rolling in the house. What is up, my friend? If you don't know, Jay is a badass himself, and you should probably go follow him too. You think I had a good night last week? Jay went 9-1. The dude absolutely crushed it. So yeah, you know what? Gilbert would be fighting this week again if he could. He absolutely would have made that walk yet again. And my boy Bill is in monster over here. Got 4 parlays active with Gilbert Burns. Nice. Getting that plus 150 there rolling into the next week. That's some good stuff. So there we go. That's my read on the early prelims. We got to go ahead and jump to the preliminary card here now. And the first fight of the night is going to be Charles Byrd taking on Magny Pitolo, the coconut bombs himself. Now, some of you may remember that I was a supporter of Magny Pitolo. I was a Coconut Bombs fan. I saw what he did on the Contender Series, and it basically sold me on his power. I really UFC. I thought he had the raw talent that he was going to need. I thought that power was going to carry him when he didn't have the raw talent that he would need. And now I've kind of woken up. I'm just kind of not there anymore with Magny Pitolo. I do think that he has those coconut bombs. I do think that he has power, but I don't think it's as much as we thought it was. I thought Magny Pitolo was another guy that I could essentially assign the death touch to, and I can't. He doesn't have that. His fight with Callan Potter proved that these guys that are just tougher, dig deeper, he's not going to be able to knock them out the way I thought he was going to. And that kind of bothers me. He's taken on Charles Byrd. And the biggest thing that you need to know about this fight is that it's up a weight class. Magny Pitolo is taking on Byrd at 185. Maki's a 170 pounder. He's a true 170 pounder. And he's coming up 15 pounds to take on Byrd, who's a monster. This dude is thick. He's big. He's jacked. He's very strong. He's 36 years old. That's kind of my concern here, is that he's a little bit older, but he's on a 2-fight skid taking on Darren the Dentist Stewart and Edward Shabazian. He did lose both of those fights, but he looked extremely good against Darren Stewart before he got caught. This guy's a phenomenal wrestler. He looks to bully his opponents. He's got some explosive striking. I feel like he's what Devin Clark should look like. He does chase his opponents down, presses them up against the cage, bullies them around. He's got some slick, underrated striking. And I mean, he was landing on Darren Stewart. That was something. When that fight happened, I was all about Darren Stewart, and I was floored by the way that Byrd was managing that fight. The only thing is he kind of struggles with power. And that's where, is Magny going to catch him? Because he was winning the Darren Stewart fight until he got knocked out. And then Edmund Shabazian basically ended him in the first round. Shabazian's a future champion, though, folks. Don't get it twisted. That's not a fight that we should be like, oh, he's so bad. He lost. No. He got handled by the future of the division, and that's just going to happen. Here he's fighting a guy who belongs a weight class below him and a guy who struggles with the takedown. Maki Pitolo is able to reverse and take the backs of his opponents and lock up chokes and submissions sometimes. But against a guy like Byrd, coming from Fortis MMA with Coach Saif I'm messing his name up. Saif Saud, I said it right the first time. Coming from Fortis MMA, Byrd is going to be more than prepared for that. And he's going to be physically strong enough, I think, to just take Maki down. And I don't think Maki's going to get back up. And if we get in close, I don't think that Maki's going to have that short-range power to be able to close out the show. If anything, Byrd might actually be the better striker here. I'm a little nervous about Byrd, like I said, because he's coming off of 2 KO losses. He's 36 years old. That's not really a winning record. And then it's not really, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 there. You don't want to bet on that type of situation. It's different than Formiga, where I feel like we're getting a buy low spot. This is a buy high spot. He's the chalk right now. Byrd is a -170 favorite, and I essentially agree with the line. I think Byrd wins. I don't know that I want to lay -170 on him. So this is kind of a sit, wait, and see type of fight. If it turns out that he's like Hill last week, and money comes in on Pitolo, and that line closes, and I can get him a little more close to a pick'em, I think I like Charles Byrd here. If you want to parlay Charles Byrd, it's a little sketchy, but I wouldn't hate it. And especially if you're doing like a Hail Mary, you're doing like a 4 or 5 leg parlay, something like that, I would put Byrd in that kind of a long shot. Bankroll management, folks, don't overextend on any one single bet. But if you're going to do something for fun like that, I do think Byrd wins. I think he basically grapples Maki Pitolo to death and just wins a decision. So maybe we look at the decision prop a little later in the week when those props come out and take a stab at that. I don't know. We'll see. Cody Stamann, Brian Boom Kelleher. I messed up. I straight messed up. Oh, thank you, Viral Video. Good show. I appreciate that. So Cody Stamann, Brian Kelleher is a super interesting fight. Now, I've gone 1-1 on Kelleher in his last couple of fights. The dude showed up massively for me, and then I decided to go ahead and try and fade him, and that was a mistake. It's the same thing we were talking about earlier, where when you've got these guys that are streaking, when you've got these guys that are on point, you can bet a streaking fighter like Gilbert Burns until the train comes to a stop. You can just keep on hammering that guy until he loses and just keep cashing in on it. But if you jump off, that's it. You broke your streak. You jumped off. The streak doesn't exist anymore. The fighter didn't lose, but you messed up and you were off it. That's what I did with Brian Boom Kelleher. I cashed in on him with Ode Osborne. I lost because I tried to fade him with Hunter Azure. And now he's a big dog again for the 3rd event in a row, taking on Cody Stamann, who is a guy that, I'll be honest with you, I am just not sold on. I know he's 18-2. I know he's got a very grapple-heavy type of game. I know he's solid. He's solid. I'll just say that. But I don't like him. I think he's got some holes. So he got subbed out by Aljo Sterling. He bounced back against Alejandro Perez, and then he got beat by Song Yadong. But because of Song Yadong getting that fence grab point deduction, it ends up being a draw. So Cody's going to be hungry to come out here and get this thing going again. He's a pretty thick guy for 135. The other thing to keep in mind is that these boys are fighting at 145. So they're getting that 10 extra pounds. And I think that's why Brian Boom Kelleher is able to turn around so quickly in this position, is because he's just not cutting weight right now. And he's coming out of his fights completely clean. So Cody Stamann, he's 5'6". He's got a 64-inch reach. And Brian Kelleher is 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. So Kelleher is actually going to have a nice little reach advantage. That's something that I do like to see. And Stamann averages 4.25 significant strikes per minute, absorbing 3.06. Good strike differential there. And on the flip side of that, Kelleher averages 4.65, absorbing 6.02. So bad sign that Kelleher is being outstruck for the majority of his fights by his opponents. But that's where, like his last fight, Hunter Azure, he let Hunter gas himself out. Brian, he's a really good defensive fighter. He gets his hands up, he shells up, he covers his head, he keeps moving, he fights well moving backwards, which is a very, very tough skill set to have and something that I honestly like to bet on. If you can land a bomb moving backwards, you can catch your opponent off guard. And that's something that I feel like can come into play here. Cody Stamann is constantly stalking forward, constant pressure, physically strong, offensive wrestling. He tries to catch kicks, throws big looping hooks, and then in the clinch, he does throw some good, powerful knees. If he gets you on the mat, you're probably in for a long night because he'll just grind on you. And he slows down. That's the big thing, is that Cody Stamann slows down in fights. Brian Kelleher, on the other hand, I feel like gets stronger the later he goes in fights, like what happened with Hunter Azure. Brian Kelleher's cardio is always on point. And if you don't put this guy away, he's just going to keep coming. So the fact that Cody Stamann slows down late, I think, is a point for Kelleher here. We know about Kelleher's power. At 135, it's solid. Giving him that extra 10 pounds seems to be helping him. He did very, very well knocking out a tough dude like Hunter Azure in his last fight. He's got incredible takedown defense, and that's another stat I want to go ahead and read off here. Cody Stamann's whole game is based around the takedown. He goes for 3.58. On average, he lands 3.58 takedowns per 15-minute fight with a 48% accuracy. That's impressive. That means he's going for a lot of takedowns, and he's hitting about half of them. That is big time. Brian Kelleher, on the other side of this thing, has an 84% takedown defense rating. That's huge. That's a fantastic takedown defense rating. Now, I know he hasn't fought quite the level of competition. This is a step up against Cody Stamann, but it's still a good number to have in your back pocket. He feints. He has good head movements. He's got a big, strong step-in uppercut, and really the gas tank is what I'm looking at here. And the other way that I messed up this fight is that I pulled the trigger on Brian Kelleher way too early. I absolutely thought that the public was going to look at this and go, that's the dude that just knocked a guy out. I'm going to bet on him. Cody Stamann is a boring wrestler, and we've got this fun, flashy guy that comes in and knocks people out. And I thought that number was going to drop. I thought I wouldn't be the only one wanting to be on Kelleher, so I pulled the trigger early. I have Brian Kelleher plus 200 sitting in my pocket, and right now you can get him at plus 240. So I messed up. I apologize. I messed up. But I think that Brian Kelleher is absolutely live here. If he can defend the takedowns, if he can make Cody Stamann struggle, which is exactly what happened in the Song Yadong fight. Song was able to keep the fight standing and pick at him as he was coming in. And when Stamann can't get his takedowns, he doesn't know what else to do. Those looping punches that he throws, Kelleher will beat him to the punch every single time. He's got a speed advantage here. And I actually think he's got a power advantage. I mean, I know he's got a power advantage. Cody Stamann doesn't knock people out standing like Brian Kelleher does. I think Kelleher has got the opportunity for that flash KO, that flash knockdown. He's got the wrestling defense that we need to stop a guy like Cody Stamann. Whether he'll be completely successful for it or not, I'm not sure. That's really the key. Because if Stamann can lay on top of Brian Kelleher, he probably wins this thing in a decision. But I think it's a whole lot closer than the line indicates. If I'd gotten the plus 240, I'd be more all over it than I already am. I've got plus 200 on Brian Kelleher. I'm going to go ahead and take that shot as a dog. I'm going to see if I can get back on this train that I volunteered to get off like a freaking idiot. Next fight of the night. I don't know what to do with this one, folks. I am scratching my head here. Ian the Hurricane Heinisch taking on Gerald Meerschaert. And these are both two guys that I like a lot. I'm very impressed with. So Ian and I have had a little bit of a rough history. I've bet him in every single fight so far in his UFC career. So just like Ian, I am 2-2. He is currently on a 0-2 run, though, and that's my issue. I basically looked at Ian and I went, you know what? This dude's peaked. He's like Eric Anders. He's just hit peak Ian Heinisch. He's 31 years old. He's got a style. He's kind of rooted in that style, and I don't see him making the adjustments that he needs to make moving forward. So I put him in the trash bin. I swore off Ian Heinisch. I said I'm not going to bet him until I see that he makes that next jump, because otherwise he's going to end up being a fade fighter for me when he gets to the higher end of the division. Well, here we are in his next fight, and I want to bet Ian Heinisch. I shouldn't. I haven't yet, but I want to. So what happened is Ian decided to move out to Tiger Muay Thai, which is one of the best MMA gyms around. I love Tiger Muay Thai. They've got high-level training there, good, excellent striking, good ground game. Tyrone Woodley was out there. Valentina Shevchenko goes out there. Loma Lukbunmi is out there. I mean, all these amazing fighters are there. It's such a wealth of knowledge. It's the perfect place to be. So if he's going to make the improvements that he needs to make with his technique, his physical gifts are already there. He's incredibly strong. He's durable. He knows how to manage his gas tank. He can go a full 15 minutes. He can knock people out. He can defend takedowns. I mean, The dude's got everything he needs. He just needs to have some better technique in his striking and his grappling to be able to beat these next level fighters. So he did exactly what I'm looking for. He attacks with good low kicks. He's always looking to bully his opponent up against the cage. Solid defensively. He's got good vision. He sees things coming. He's got a strong front kick that he likes to use, which I think Tiger Muay Thai is just going to improve upon that. And his submission defense is on point. I mean, his first 2 fights was Anthony Carlos Jr. and Cesar Ferreira, 2 guys that are well known for their submission prowess, and Heinisch handled them. He was able to completely bully them and shut down that submission attack. And now he's fighting another guy in Gerald Meerschaert, who's very similar. His main point is his offensive ability on the mat. And it makes me want to bet Ian. We're going back to the well here. He beat 2 guys very similar to this build in his UFC start. And now that he needs to bounce back, he fought Derek Brunson, which is a decent step up, and Amari Akhmedov, who's a guy that could match him physically. And that was a very, very close fight that I think you could maybe make an argument for Heinisch for. It was close. I mean, 55 significant strikes for Amari versus 53 on Ian, and then 2 takedowns for Amari, 3 takedowns on Ian. Extremely close fight. Amari got the unanimous decision. I can't argue it too much, but I feel like it's closer than the L next to his name suggests. Gerald Meerschaert, he's very improved. He's been getting better and better in his last couple of fights. He is making the right moves to take that step up as well. His boxing is looking better. He's developed decent power. He's got good head movement. And like I said, his grappling. That's always going to be the feather in his cap. The high-level grappling for Gerald Meerschaert is going to be his main key to victory. And in the fight, he's always a threat. Even late into the game, his gas tank is solid enough, or he just has that mental strength to push through it, that he's got a lot of round 3 victories. He can finish you if you give him just a moment when you gas out at the end of the game. And then, of course, he's got a sick top game. If he gets on top of you, you're in freaking trouble. So Ian's got to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I don't know what to do here, guys. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, whoever you are, whatever you identify as, I don't know what to do. Ian Heinisch has a 72-inch reach. Gerald Meerschaert has a 77-inch reach. So that's another thing that's giving me a little bit of pause, that even if Ian has been able to make the changes he needs to and do what he needs to do, he's going to be at a 6-inch reach advantage, which is significant. That's very significant. Those little T-Rex arms are going to have a hard time getting over to Gerald Meerschaert on the other side of the cage. But I think this is going to be decided a lot in the grappling areas. And if Ian's takedown defense holds up like it has so far in his career for the most part, I think Gerald's going to have a hard time getting him on the mat. Gerald's game is centered around that. 2.37 takedowns per 15 minutes with 43% accuracy. So very, very good takedown rating. However, who has he really fought? I mean, he struck with Eric Anders, didn't take him down once, and eked out a split decision against a very limited fighter. He has a win over Deron Winn, which we cashed in on that one, I'm proud to say. But he was a monster against Deron Winn. Deron Winn doesn't belong at this weight class. He's simply too small. And then he beat Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles was whooping that ass until he gassed out and slipped up and just made a terrible decision in round 3. Trevin Giles gifted GM3 that win. So he's 2-3 in his last 5. I'm not sold on the improvements that Gerald Meerschaert has made. I feel like maybe he looks good because he's been facing a lower level of competition. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to see if I want to dig Ian Heinisch out of the trash bin for this fight or not. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, because Gerald Meerschaert is a bet-on fighter for me against specific fighters. I was looking forward to cashing in on him again. I loved him against Deron Winn, and I look forward to betting on him in the future. But I just don't think that this is the one. It's lined extremely closely as well, which is something that I'm struggling with. Gerald Meerschaert opened up as he opened up as the favorite, actually, minus 120, slight pick'em favorite. And the money apparently has been on Ian, taking him from a pick'em. I mean, it's barely moved. The early money came in on Ian, which this is something that spooks me a little bit too about this fight. If you listen to Yanni the Greek, who's the gambler the UFC kind of has put their tag on, he's actually really good. I know he struggled when he first started doing this thing, but he's much better. Now that he's had more time to get accustomed to the fight game, he's pretty damn sharp. What he talks about is that when the lines first come out, they don't allow big limits on these bets. The liquidity is very, very small in the market. So these sharp bettors, these syndicates, they bet the wrong side. And they do that because when the limits are low, the books move the lines big time. So in this kind of a case, we've got this early action coming in on Ian and driving Gerald to the underdog position. And then the line corrects itself. The money comes back in the other direction, meaning those sharps have got the bet in at plus 100 or plus 120 where they wanted it. And they're actually on the side of Gerald Meerschaert, even though it looks like the early money has come in on Ian the Hurricane. So that's something that kind of has me a bit spooked in this position, that it's kind of a coin flippy fight. My gut tells me that Ian wins, but I'm also kind of feeling like maybe it should be a pass. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that one. Let's see how these guys look when we get a little closer to the fights, doing the interviews on the scales, stuff like that. We will see what I end up doing with that one, but I may end up going ahead and pulling the trigger on Ian. I'm not sure. Not sure. Hold'em says his mindset is good for this fight after Thailand. I agree with that. He's riding high. Even though he's coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, he sounds nothing but confident. That price on Kelleher is great to put in my pocket. Let's go, Connor. Let's get it. I hope Kelleher just shows up again and proves everybody wrong. My boy Boston Nick on Ian here as well. I do like hearing that. Love rolling with my boys. Alex Ramirez, shout out. What's going on, buddy? Thank you for showing up here in the chat. I appreciate it. And thanks for the shout out, my boy Boston Nick. Letting people find the show. Have GM3 parlayed with Gilbert Burns. Okay. It might hedge on Ian. Okay. And I mean, honestly, Bill, that's not a bad place to be. If you've got anybody parlayed with Gilbert Burns, you're getting a huge payout compared to what you should be getting. It's actually probably a really great spot to hedge and lock up a free profit. Yeah, Adam says don't do it. And Adam might be right. You might be right, my friend. And that's what I said. When I put people in the trash bin, it should take a decent amount of effort. It should take a decent amount of something to dig them out. And going to Tiger Muay Thai is the move that I want to see, but we haven't seen him fight yet. So I don't know if I have what I need yet. Got plus 130 on GM3 in my pocket. That's the way to go. Because I don't think you're going to see that again. I think it's going to stay right where it's at, or the line will flip and we might get a better line on Ian closer to fight time. I think the world is on GM3 at this point. I also think that that's because of what they've been doing. I think that's because GM3 is on a little bit of a win run here, kind of, 2-1 in his last 3. And then Ian is 0-2 in his last 2. I think a lot of people are going to be on GM3 simply because of seeing that. And Boston Nick is right here. Weigh-ins are huge. That might be the key, is waiting to see how these guys look. But both guys are motivated. Both guys are confident. This one may just be a stay away. This may be a popcorn and fireball type of fight where I miss another fence grab because I'm too drunk to notice. Next up, we've got Chase Hooper taking on Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy. Chase Hooper is the estranged son of Ben Askren. And he's coming in here to take on Alex Caceres, a guy with a wealth of experience more than him. And that's a really big talking point. I know a lot of people have probably said that, so you're going to hear that all week, that Alex Caceres has the experience edge here. But Alex Caceres is also damn near a 500 fighter. He is 15-12. He is not very good. He's talented and smooth and slick on the feet. However, his takedown defense is bad, and his submission defense is worse. This is a spot where it's plain and simple. The UFC are trying to push this kid Hooper. He's adorable. He's 20. He's funny. He's got a good sense of humor. He rolls with the punches. He knows how to jab. That's where that whole Ben Askren's son thing came from. I mean, this kid is going to be a star simply because of his personality. He is wicked on the ground. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, high-level grappling, but he's a little rough on the feet. And I say that with the utmost respect. He's awful on the feet. He's so bad. So this is a spot where we go, do we bet the one-dimensional fighter here because he has a clear path to victory? Short answer for me is yes. Unfortunately, this is a spot where I'm kind of throwing my own rule set out the window. Chase Hooper is a minus 160 favorite. The comeback on Caceres is plus 140. I got Chase Hooper early. I got minus 145 on Chase Hooper, and I think the money is just going to pour in. I think this line is going to get ridiculously wide by fight time. I think Hooper probably closes a minus 180 favorite or something like that, which is way wide, way disrespectful of Alex Caceres, and I love fading fighters who are taking a step up in competition. However, there's another angle I like to take that's on the reverse side of this thing. The UFC wants Hooper to win this. They gave him Alex Caceres not because it's going to be a fun matchup. No, because Alex Caceres can't stop a takedown, and because Alex Caceres doesn't know how to tuck his chin. If this thing hits the mat even once, Hooper is going to maul Alex Caceres. And he just doesn't know any better. He wades in and clinches these guys up and drags them to the mat. Alex Caceres is not a power puncher. He's a volume puncher. He only has 3 KOs on his win record. And because of that, we know he's not going to end Hooper's night. This is the perfect step up in competition. This is the perfect opportunity for Hooper to eat punches with his chin and get in there to clinch and drag Caceres to the mat. That's exactly what's going to happen. The UFC knows that. That's why they set this fight up, and that's why I'm betting it. I think this is a spot that Hooper simply gets the damn thing done. If you want to take Hooper by submission, I think that's a good way to go. I got in early. I went ahead and just laid the wood on it because just in case Alex has worked on his submission defense and manages to lose a decision here with Hooper being on top of him for 15 minutes, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'd rather play it safe and take it anyway. I'm on Hooper. I am absolutely on Hooper. When you can be on the side of the UFC, when the UFC wants a fighter to win and you can bet that guy, you got to take it. I don't necessarily think the odds are right, but got to do what we got to do, right? I'm a fan of money. I think Hooper wins. So I'm on it. And I got in early. Let's see what everybody thinks here. Pav says that Hooper going to win. Ramirez is on Hooper. Nick going head-to-head with me here. That'll be fun to talk about on the live stream tomorrow. Oh, wrong boy favored. What? All right, we're going to hash that one out. Be sure you tune in Odds HQ tomorrow. Me and Nick are going to go to war on that one. That's right, Bill. We've got Hooper and Burns parlayed. Beautiful. I wouldn't hedge on that one. I think you're on the right side. Absolutely think you're on the right side. Wonder what Hooper by sub odds are. Well, let's find out here. We know we don't have the props out yet, but we can come here, and that's what this nice little fun carrot is. You can see the props and which books have them. We do have Hooper inside the distance at -105. You got to think submission is probably going to be about the same. Usually when you pick submission or knockout, it's going to be a little bit better, but in this case, he ain't knocking him. Well, you know what? Actually, now that I say that, I lie. This is another angle that I kind of like to take. I love taking grapplers by knockout because of the ground and pound angle. If they can tie somebody up and force them to the mat, flatten their hips out, and then pound them out with elbows, they always give grapplers like +850, +1100 on the knockout because they can't do shit on the feet, but you forget that TKOs are a thing in MMA. So inside the distance at -105, I think is much safer than the submission prop, because if Alex gets put on the mat and tied up, Hooper's just going to have his way with him. If he wants to finish it with elbows, he can. That wraps up the preliminary card. Let's jump on over to the main event. Thank you all for hanging out with me. This is going to be a bit of a long stream, and I guess with me answering questions and bouncing back and forth with y'all, that might just be the new norm. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me. It's been an absolute blast. Let's roll straight on into this thing. We are kicking the night off with Eddie Wineland welcoming Sugar Sean O'Malley, and O'Malley and Hooper could be brothers. Very, very similar looking dudes. O'Malley is the pothead that lit the world on fire, got popped by USADA, and has that pulsing thing that John Jones does. Had to take some time off. Now that he's back, it's the same situation as Hooper. The UFC is they're building these stars. They are trying to give Hooper, they're trying to give O'Malley the opportunity to grow, to improve, to get there. That's what they want from these guys. And if they can keep doing that, yeah. Sorry. I got distracted by the comments. Caceres has been subbed 5 times, taking Hooper by sub. Exactly. And we get corrected 5, 7, not 5. That's exactly why the UFC put that fight together. But this is what I'm talking about. Sean O'Malley is taking on the veteran Eddie Wineland, and I love Eddie. He got back on the horse against Gregory Popov in his last fight, won by knockout. I don't think I bet that fight, but I think I called it. I think I said that Eddie was live in that last fight to bounce back and get a win here. So he is 1-2 in his last 3, and he's looking to bounce back. But the fact of the matter is, he's 35 years old. He is 24-13. He has the wealth of experience that we like to see. but I think he's done here against Sean O'Malley. This line is insanely wide. Insanely wide. I don't like it because Sean O'Malley is a hype train. He's a legitimate hype train. He's a hype train for a reason, but he still shouldn't be this big of a favorite, I don't think. He's minus 475 right now. The comeback on Wineland is plus 380. And let's just look at some of these numbers, statistically speaking. Sean O'Malley is 5'11 with a 72-inch reach. Wineland is 5'7 with a 69-inch reach. So he's going to have both height and reach in his back pocket. I know he's only got a 3-fight sample size, but so far Sean O'Malley has averaged 6.87 significant strikes per minute. Absolutely phenomenal, aggressive offensive output from this kid. And he's only absorbed 3.83. So big differential. He's defending far better than he should be at this level of the game. Wineland absorbs 3.51 significant strikes and averages 3.41 of output. So he is just ever so slightly being outstruck by his opponents, and he has nowhere near the offensive output that a guy like Sean O'Malley does. He's got a great defense percentage, 86%, but after what we saw with Sean O'Malley on the feet against Jose Quinones, that kid's come leaps and bounds. His striking is so good, and he uses that reach to his advantage extremely well. Once it hits the mat, he's brutal. He's an absolute finisher, and I don't see Eddie winning. This is one of those spots where I don't like seeing minus 475. I don't like seeing minus 500. I think it's a wide line, but at the same time, he wins. O'Malley just gets the damn thing done. So there's not a whole lot to talk about here. I think Sean O'Malley wins this fight running away. He probably finishes Eddie Wineland late. But Eddie's a tough bastard. I mean, he's only been knocked out 3 times in his career. He's been submitted 4 times. I mean, it's not a great look, and he's not having the best run right now, but he's been going to decision. He hasn't been knocked out since he fought all the way back in 2014. So that finish, he might be due for it. Let's just say that. Moving right along, we've got Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin, and this is a very, very interesting fight in my opinion, one that I'm very intrigued in. If you follow me on Twitter, you may already know the angle. Rocco Martin is bouncing around between 155 and 170, which is not something that you like to see. He kind of feels a little lost to me. He's not sure if he wants to be at 155 or 170. He's one of these guys that would really benefit from that phantom 160 division that we wish the UFC would add, because if they did, there'd be a bunch of guys that would be far more competitive and be able to make that gap much, much easier. He's too small for 170. He's too big for 155. He has heavy leg kicks. He scrambles really well. He's an angry person when he fights. He's vicious. He looks to hurt his opponents, and he does have an offensive submission game. 9 of his 17 wins have come by submission. So this dude is always looking for that finish. And he's on a damn good win streak. His only loss recently was to Damian Maia. He's 5-1 in his last 6, and he comes in here as the underdog. Normally speaking, I would like to bet on him as an underdog. He's plus 130. The comeback on Magny is minus 150. But your boy's on Neil Magny. I'm actually hammering Neil Magny as a 2 times play. I am laying 3 units to win 2 on Magny at minus 150. Magny is this guy that loses the big fights. If he takes that step up, if he tries to crack into the top 5, that's when he chokes. If he's not, he wrecks everybody in his way. He's an absolute monster. Physically strong, great wrestling, tall, long, uses his range well, and he's got submission defense for days. Very, very high fight IQ when he gets into the cage. He really is the complete package, and he just wears his opponents out. He's got 12 of his 22 wins coming by decision. He's 32 years old, so he's still got some time. He bounced off what we thought was a life-changing knockout loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio in 2018 after a long, long layoff, and he looked better than he ever has against Jingling Liang. Cashed in as a huge underdog that night, and I don't know how I missed that spot. I was on the wrong side of that fight. That was one of my big L's to get 2020 where it is at this point. I think he shows up here ready to go. Neil Magny is training with guys like Drew Dober. He's training with Justin Gaethje. Elevation Fight Team is streaking right now. He's got world-class fighters who are fighting with him that are all peaking at the same time. And we see that as something, it's very, very important. When the people around you are hitting that next level and you're training with them on a daily basis, you're going to hit that next level too. I think that Dan Hooker is going to be a 155-pound champion someday because he trains with guys like Volkanovski and Israel Adesanya. It's just going to happen. He's got the right build. He's got the right tools. He's got the right skills. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And when your teammates are putting it all together, you tend to follow suit when you've got all the right pieces. And I think Neil Magny does. I think Neil Magny is going to grind on Anthony Rocco Martin. We saw Rocco get ground out by Damian Maia, and this is a 15-minute fight. I think it's going to be the same thing. Rocco's got to be able to get to the back to lock up some kind of a submission, and I think the wrestling of Magny is just too good for that. On top of that, Magny's going to have the physical advantages as well. Let me get his stats pulled up here so I can read the numbers off to you. I see the chat going nuts, so I will get to that here in just a moment, I promise. Neil Magny is 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. That's right, 80-inch reach. Rocco Martin is 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. We have a 7-inch reach advantage, folks. 7 inches. That's a long-ass reach advantage. He's going to be able to jab Rocco where Rocco can't kick him. He averages 3.93 significant strikes per minute, and he absorbs 2.15. Very defensively sound is Neil Magny. And that is also including that beating he took from Ponzinibbio. Keep that in mind. Almost 2 significant strikes a minute more than his opponents. Rocco Martin, on the other hand, averages 2.7 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 2.45. So he's barely outstriking his opposition. And he's taking on a guy who massively outstrikes his opposition. Rocco needs this fight on the mat to have a shot, in my opinion, and he needs to be on top. But he averages 0.68 takedowns per 15 minutes. Not even a takedown per 15-minute fight with a 25% accuracy. His offensive wrestling just is not there. And he's taken on Neil Magny, who's got a 59% takedown defense rating, which 59 isn't my favorite number in the world. It could be better than that, but that's coming off of Johnny Hendricks, where he got taken down 6 times. That's really the fight that kind of skews that number for Neil Magny. It would be a lot more impressive if it wasn't for that one single fight when he fought the guy that was essentially the champion at that point in time. That's my read. I think Neil Magny wins by blanket. It's something that I look forward to seeing. Another thing, the world is freaking crazy right now. There's a lot going on out there. And I want to say this very, very carefully because I don't want to insult anybody. With everything that's going on in the world, I think that we can look for the black fighters to show up more. And I do say black as opposed to African American because there are fighters out there who are not from America who have black skin, a la Israel Adesanya. You know, we've got Czech Congo, who's French. So I am saying black, not because I know he's African-American, but because not everybody is African-American in the UFC. But I think that the black fighters have something more to fight for right now. And I think when it comes to handicapping, that's a point that people may not think about. It's something that people may not realize. And when it comes to handicapping, especially with fights, we're talking about emotional people. These guys are running off of raw emotion right now. And I really think that we are going to see a wave of some of these black fighters really show up. What they're dealing with right now is powerful, and you don't think they want to get on the mic after this fight. You don't think these guys want to get on the mic and shout out to their brothers and sisters that are struggling in the streets to say that they're fighting too? To give them that support, to give them something to cheer for when they get home after a day of protesting? I think that they do. I absolutely think that the black fighters are going to look to make their mark in these spots so that they have an extra platform to speak about. And I don't know if you couldn't tell at this point or not, but folks, Black Lives Matter. I'm on the team. And I don't want to get political or anything like that. That's not what I try to use my platform for, but I think it's important that that's said. Rolling back through these comments here. Muay Thai thinks that Neil Magny going to lose by getting choked. chokehold on one of his ears. Look at this. He's got some satellite dishes. You're not lying. I'm sorry. He does have some big ears. I can't, you know what though? My ass has these tiny little baby ears. My friends make fun of me constantly because proportional to the size of my head, my ears are little itty bitty. So the universe balances itself out. Neil Magny has big ears and I got the small ones to make up for it. Bill knows what's up. Magny looked really good in his last fight. See this, we're going to have some splits here. I know a buddy of mine, UFC Bro Picks, is already on Rocco Martin. And I know there's going to be other people who like Rocco at that dog money. Nick says, same thing, tough line. Training with Masvidal, Poirier. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not sold on Masvidal like a lot of other people are. And especially when it comes to the grappling, that's Masvidal's biggest weakness. So Rocco's striking might be on point, but he's still going to have to deal with that reach advantage. And he's definitely still going to have to deal with the wrestling. And that's something that Masvidal is not going to prepare him for. Poirier, maybe a little bit more so. But again, he's a smaller fighter. And that's not going to help him training, a larger dude for a larger opponent. That's not going to be, a very, very good. I don't know. I don't think Dustin Poirier is the perfect training partner for this kind of fight. I feel like the guys Magny with are much, much better. Plus, we got to throw Curtis Blaydes in the mix. Blaydes is an elevation guy, and that's a huge advantage for someone like Magny. Can you imagine training to lift a guy like Curtis Blaydes off you and then fighting a guy that should be at 155 instead of 170? That's going to be a decent bit lighter. Smash the like, my boy Buffo on the beat. Thank you for joining the chat, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate it. It would mean the world to me if you go ahead and smash that like button. And let's see here. We got T-Man's World. Welcome to the chat, T-Man's World. I don't believe I recognize that name. If we know each other from Twitter, I apologize. Sometimes people have different handles on Twitter versus on YouTube, and it throws me for a freaking loop. So thank you for joining the chat. I appreciate it. Get on in here. And there we go. That's right. Black Lives Matter. And tell that to Woodley. We had a different angle there, buddy. We had a different angle on Woodley. My man. Let's move on. Aljo Sterling taking on Corey Sandhagen. Now, I'm glad to see that Bro Picks is still in the chat here because I know he's got a bet on this fight. I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to have to go watch his stream instead. But I don't know what the hell I'm going to do on this fight. This was the last fight that I researched. I saved this one for last because I knew it was going to be the hardest. These guys right now are lined super close. Aljo Sterling is a minus 115 favorite. The comeback on Corey is minus 105 or minus 110. I mean, this is a pick'em. Very, very close. Now, Aljo opened up as a minus 145 favorite. He's been bet down to minus 115. So money so far has come in on Sandhagen. And I'm not sure that I agree. I tweeted out a picture earlier of the shape that Aljamain Sterling is in. And the dude, I mean, he's physically gifted. This guy, he's an Adonis. He's always got abs. He was sculpted by the gods. I'm sorry. It's true. No homo. All love, though. And he's just in phenomenal shape right now. He's ready to go. Corey Sandhagen also is ready to go. I mean, these are two runaway freight trains that are slamming into each other here. This is a fight that I don't think I'm going to bet simply because it is so freaking tight. Either one of these guys could win this fight. From a betting perspective, I don't see anything. That is going to put me on one guy over the other. Let's run through some of this, right? So Aljo Sterling, the Funk Master, is 30 years old, 18-3. Solid level of experience, good record. Corey Sandhagen is 28 years old, 2 years younger, but we're not at the age that gap matters, 12-1. So he's only lost once. Record seems a little bit more impressive, but he hasn't been around the UFC quite as long. So which side has the edge there? I'm not sure. Aljo Sterling averages 4.85 significant strikes per minute, absorbing only 1.95 significant strikes per minute. So almost 3 significant strikes per minute more than his opposition. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. And that's after his last fight going to war with Pedro Munoz. He outlanded him 174 significant strikes to 105. Damn. Aljamain is a machine. Absolute machine. Corey Sandhagen averages 7.14 significant strikes per minute and only absorbs 4.16. It's almost the same exact differential. Corey Sandhagen is a little bit more busy, but he gets hit more in return. Aljamain Sterling is a little safer, but he gets hit far less in return. But they average the same amount. Like, it's the same freaking thing. Aljo averages 1.91 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 29% accuracy. I'd like to see that accuracy be a little bit higher, but he's kind of a chain grappler. He'll just continue making you think about that takedown all night. Sandhagen averages 1.24 with a 50% accuracy. That's what I'm talking about. Little fewer takedowns, but he lands them much more often. Again, it kind of balances out. Both guys have bad takedown defense ratings. But really, neither of these guys are used to being the ones getting taken down. They're usually the ones doing the taking down. Sterling has a 51% takedown defense rating, where Sandhagen has a 27%. But I don't know how much that's going to factor in this particular fight. When you get a bunch of guys that are good in one particular area, sometimes they try to take it to an area where they think they have the advantage, and both guys are kind of weak. So I don't know if this is going to be a grappling match. This might end up being a striking battle. Could be the other way around too. Maybe they both think they can out-grapple their opponent. Could be a boring up against the cage 3-round grinder. The fact of the matter is, with all the information, with all the numbers, the way these guys match up, I have no freaking clue who wins this fight. My gut tells me that Aljo is going to win this thing. But it's a coin flip for a reason. I kind of side with the bookies here. I think they opened it right. I think Aljo deserves to be the favorite, just barely. But I'm not 1,000% sold on that. I mean, he's got a 1-inch reach advantage, but Corey's much bigger than he is. And 1 inch doesn't mean a whole lot in this world. So, and both these guys are used to having hefty reach advantages on their opponents. It's going to be interesting to see who changes that all up and is able to flow when they're matched physically by their opponent, because neither of them are really used to this. I mean, both of them attack leg kicks. Aljamain Sterling did struggle with leg kicks against Pedro Munoz. Munoz popped his legs up pretty good, and he started to have a hard time at the end of that fight. They're both very fast. Corey likes to throw a flying knee now and again. He feints very well. Aljamain Sterling has that really long jab that he works behind a little bit more. Both of them manage range extremely well. I think Aljamain Sterling is a little faster, a little bit more athletic. But that's it. I mean, it's razor thin. This is a couch, popcorn, and fireball fight, folks. I don't think I'm going to bet on this. If I'm going to do my Hail Mary, if I'm going to do my bet every single damn fight on the card type of thing, which of course I always do, I think I'm going to throw Aljo in that. I think that's going to be the side that I end up on, but I'm not doing anything as far as a straight side or anything like that. Yeah, so I really don't know. My Bufo here says that Corey by decision is the play, which, I mean, hey, Brandon's got the angle there. You know, it's kind of like Sakai we were talking about before. If you think this fight goes to the cards, which it probably does, take your side by decision. Take that extra value. You know, go ahead and flip that coin with a little extra padding. Pav says Corey is the next champ in the division. I think either of these guys, I think these guys are going to see a lot of each other. This might be the birth of a rivalry. You know what I mean? One of these guys might get the belt, and the other one's going to come challenge them for it in a couple of fights. Sterling has never faced somebody smaller and longer in reach, so he'll fence that here. Plus Sandhagen, how's he training with elevation? Yeah. There's a lot to unpack here. Sandhagen, Hooper, Gilbert Burns, and a big parlay. There you go. Might hedge with Aljo. I mean, if you get positive money or even money on Aljo, why not, right? Lock up a victory, man. If you can hedge out of a parlay and guarantee yourself money, I'm always a fan of that. Go home with your pockets full. I mean, you know, if you're just gambling for fun, if you're just having a damn good time, like, go for it. Let it ride. I don't care. I usually let it ride because I like to stick with my gut. And I don't like that feeling. I've hedged out a couple times and then I was right. And it feels worse when you don't have that money. So I totally get it if you don't want to hedge. But if you do want to hedge, free money is a damn good thing. Now, that's a great question, Bill. My boy thinking here, who gets favored in the smaller cage? And that's something we haven't really talked about much this tonight. The cage is a big deal right now. The cage is a huge deal because it's so much smaller than it usually is. I don't think it favors either guy in this fight. I mean, maybe Aljo because he goes for slightly more takedowns. but it's a very thin margin how many more takedowns he goes for than Corey. So maybe Aljamain gets a little bit more roughing them up against the fence time, which, by the way, Neil Magny definitely gets favored by the smaller cage. So I think Neil Magny, who loves to put his opponents up against the fence and grind them out, is definitely getting an extra push with the smaller cage. Something to mention there. And yeah, this one absolutely could be fight of the night. I wouldn't bet on that fight, just see how the outcome will be. I think that's the safest play. I think watching this fight and just enjoying it is the way to go. Connor, my buddy, I'm sorry I missed your comment. You're probably long gone by now. Glad you're enjoying the show. Once again, thank you to everybody who is tuning in live. I am enjoying breaking down these fights with you. We're going to wrap this one pretty soon here. We've only got a couple more fights to talk about. And this fight, I mean, I'm not going to read everybody's comment right now because it's a back and forth fight. Everybody's got a dog in this particular fight, and it's 50-50 for a reason. Very, very close fight. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing who wins this thing. Next fight, Rafael Assuncao, Cody Garbrandt. And this is the one that my boy was referring to, wondering what the deal was. Why is number 2 and 4 below the 5 and the 9? And I think the fact of the matter is Cody's sexy. Cody's dirty sexy. The women out there that are stuck with us men who want to watch people punch each other in the face, they get a little more eye candy with Cody Garbrandt than Aljamain Sterling and Corey Sandhagen. And that's just, I don't know. I'm just messing around. I think Cody is popular because he's a former champion, because he's touched gold. He's a household name. He's somebody that people know. He's a headliner. And you put him a little higher up on the card for that reason. I think that's what's going on here. But this is a fight that, once again, I am in absolute love with. I'm going to keep it quick. I could ramble for a long time, but I'm not going to. The wrong fighter is favored, folks. Cody Garbrandt is minus 145. Rafael Assuncao is plus 125, and that's where your boy put him in the pocket. I've got Rafael Assuncao at plus 125. And the simple fact of the matter is that Cody ain't got no chin. His fight name is No Love, but his real fight name should be No Chin, because he's been knocked out in his last 3 fights in a row, and that's not the kind of guy that you can put money on. On top of that, I don't think that he's made the necessary changes to correct his game. When you look at the pre-fight material, when you look at the way that he's talking, he's still the same exact cocky asshole. He hasn't learned his lesson. He's still talking shit, and he still thinks he's just going to come in here and steamroll. And that being the case tells me he hasn't learned his lesson. The reason he lost the fight against Munoz was because he decided to brawl with the dude. He has an advantage in the technical boxing, but instead he gets rocked just a little bit and decides to throw down because he just believes in his power, but that chin ain't going to back him up. And that's how Munoz won that fight. I had Cody Garbrandt by knockout at plus 200 when he fought Munoz, and we were this close to cashing it because, don't get me wrong, he landed some bombs, but Munoz is a willing partner. Assuncao, on the other hand, is one of the smartest fighters in the UFC. He is so intelligent. He's got such high fight IQ that he will not trade with Cody Garbrandt. He knows the danger. He knows how much power Cody brings to the table. He's not going to give him that opportunity. Assuncao has very, very sharp hands. He's way faster than people give him credit for. He's sick on the ground, and he's very, very technical. He's very defensively sound as well, which is really my key point here. Rafael Assuncao averages 3.32 significant strikes per minute. He only absorbs 2.35. His head movement is on another level. And this is at the top of the division. Assuncao has been knocking on that title shot door for years. He's done nothing but face the best guys that 135 has to offer through generations. And as that guard rotates through, he continues to beat them all. And it's just the very cream of the crop that he can't beat. Now, Cody Garbrandt, I know he reached that pinnacle. He did Dominic Cruz dirty and beat him like no one we've ever seen. Well, like I said, when I broke down Dominic Cruz versus Henry Cejudo, I think that was more of what we were talking about when people lose their edge. I think that that was more of Dominic Cruz not being as good as he used to be, and more of that than it was Cody Garbrandt being on point. I think Dominic Cruz wasn't himself and Cody was a good matchup. I think that Assuncao is a very bad matchup for Cody Garbrandt. And Cody Garbrandt has had a focus on his grappling in this match, which he's getting away from what he does best to try to prepare for the strength of his opponent. If he comes out and tries to wrestle here, he's in trouble. I don't think that Cody Garbrandt is a good enough wrestler to be able to hold down a guy that's as good as Rafael Assuncao is on the mat. And even if he does, he's constantly going to be in danger. Rafael Assuncao is a sick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. You are not safe taking this guy down. So I think there's going to be holes. There's going to be openings. And Cody always drops his hands. I'm sorry. I think that's something that he's never going to learn his lesson from. He drops his hands when he thinks he's got a kill shot. And Assuncao is so damn fast and so damn accurate. When he fought Marlon Moraes, I know he got rocked and then choked out in the first round, but the shot he drilled Moraes with would have ended Cody. He hit him perfectly, right on the side, right on the jaw, and Moraes was able to tank it and came back. Cody won't be able to do that. Even though Cody's taken a year off, he took 3 life-changing knockouts from Munoz, Dillashaw, and Dillashaw. That chin is gone, folks. Gone. And I'm going to take my opportunity to fade it. Because if Cody Garbrandt loses this fight, especially if he loses it by knockout, I think Rafael Assuncao is probably more of a decision guy. But with that chin, you never know. He could end this thing by knockout. I will probably be sprinkling that knockout line just for a little extra fun. Cody Garbrandt's not going to be anywhere near this kind of a price the next time out. So getting dog money on a fighter, the caliber of Assuncao, even though he's a little bit older, I got to take it. So I got plus 125 in my pocket. I know I said I was going to keep that short and then I didn't. So I'm sorry. Can't help myself. I get excited. So Bill says, small edge on Rafael. Pav saying Assuncao going to win. I like hearing that. Rafa KO artist, though. I mean, no, he's not a KO artist, but he has power. And that's all you need when you've got a guy without a chin. You know, if you hit the guy right, which Rafael Assuncao can and will, he's got enough power to get the job done against a chinny fighter. And I think that Cody Garbrandt is kind of in raw cold territory where he is incredibly skilled. He's got everything that he needs, and his chin failed him early. Because of the way he fights, his chin has failed him, and I think that's just going to keep getting him in trouble. That's Cody for you. He's always got that attitude, and I think until he learns his lesson, until he checks himself and he gets humbled, he already has been humbled, but he is not humble because of it. And because of that, I don't think he's got the right attitude training for this. And I think he's going to come back and eat shit again. Cody by KO, Raf by decision. See, I think Rafael's got more advantages. I think he's got more opportunities to win. Raf can win by submission or knockout in this fight as well. More paths to victory. I think Cody's KO or bust in this spot. Felix, I'm new. What's the website, the background betting site? First off, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining the show. Glad you are enjoying it. This is bestfightodds.com. You can see every single online book here. They give you the lines. You can hit this little caret to drop down the props so you can see what's available, which books have them out already. Best sports betting site out there right now as far as seeing where you can get lines so you can shop around. If you've got more than one book, you know, you can do your shopping here instead of jumping around to a bunch of different websites. I love this site for doing my stuff. Popcorn and Fireball. Gregory knows what's up. That's true. He's hungry. I'll give you that. And sick podcast. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the kind words. Main event is Nunes, 100% for sure. Pav, thanks very much for hanging out. I appreciate it. And yes, I agree if he loses this. I mean, I don't know. I think he's one of these guys that's too popular. The UFC probably keeps him around even if he loses. And Gregory's right. He wants to drop down to 125, which is another reason I kind of want to fade him here. If he's already thinking he doesn't belong at 135 anymore and he wants to drop down to 125, like, what are you doing taking this fight with a top contender at 135? Then he probably needs money. Probably needs money. Which one are you more confident in? I'd say I'm more confident in Magny. I think Magny is my more confident play. That's my 2x play. I did lay 3 units to win 2, whereas I'm just putting 1 unit on Assuncao. I do recognize how dangerous Cody is, and I do know that Assuncao is older, and because of that, I'm only going to risk the 1 unit on it, but we're getting dog money there, so it makes it easier to get that low-risk, high-reward situation going there, whereas I'm willing and confident to lay the wood on Magny. So I'd say he's my more confident play. Cody's a pretty boy. He will lose. You know, I used to be a pretty boy. I know you can't tell these days, but in high school, I used to be a pretty boy. That was back in the days of when boy bands roamed the earth and Backstreet Boys. Your boy had spiked hair and frosted tips and a neck chain, and I wore sleeveless shirts on the football team. Your boy was hot. What happened? Moving on, we've got the main event, folks. Thank you, Blue Fire. I appreciate the shout out. One more time, I want to go ahead and shout out everybody in the chat. Thank you all for sticking with me. It's been a fun stream. We're going to make some cash this weekend. I can feel it. And I also want to once again thank my sponsors. We've got the boys at goatcapitalsports.com. Go check them out. And then we are looking at odds.com. Please do me a favor. Check out my articles for them. Head over to that site. Or if you click my links that I tweet out on Twitter, follow me at Die Hard MMA Pod on Twitter for that. I write articles and I break down the fights. And I would appreciate your support over there as well. Odds.com might be coming on board as a full-time sponsor. So if we can get some love and get some action with them, that just helps me out, and I would appreciate it. So Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer. I mean, everyone's going to be telling you already that this is locked up, right? Nunes is a minus 630 favorite. She opened up at minus 450. Yeah, minus 450. Got smashed down to minus 600. And money just keeps pouring in. And I don't like it. This is one of those spots where Felicia Spencer, she deserves a little more respect than this. And if you made me make a pick here, if I had to say money line, if you said, Clint, you've got to bet and lay the wood with Spencer, or you've got to bet and take a small stab. I'm sorry, lay the wood on Nunes or take a small stab on Spencer. I'd be going Spencer. I would have to. I would absolutely have to, because she's got a path to victory here, guys. So Amanda Nunes, let's get all the credentials out of the way. She's the GOAT. She's the best women's fighter there's ever been. And we cannot disrespect her. She's absolutely incredible in every way, shape, and form. But she's a much better striker than she is grappler. And Felicia Spencer is a true 145er. Nunes is a two-time belt holder right now, 135 and 145. But she is a 135er naturally. And she's kind of fighting above her station at 145. Spencer is a true, thick, filled-out 145-pound woman. So she's going to have a strength advantage, I believe, and she's going to have a grappling edge. I know Nunes is a black belt on the mat, but Felicia is a judo player and I believe she's a much better wrestler. So because of that, also what she likes to do is pin her opponents up against the fence. We talk about the small cage all the time. That's going to stifle the movement of Nunes. That's going to allow Spencer to grind up against the cage. That's what she tried to do against Cyborg, and she did it with some success. And she also took everything that Cyborg had to offer. Cyborg is a power puncher. Maybe not as much as Nunes. We saw Nunes had the power edge in that fight. I think Nunes has the hand speed advantage, but Spencer can take a punch. She absolutely can take a beating. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and she will walk through hell to get the takedown. And if she does that, she stands a chance here. So honestly, in my opinion, this is a dog or pass spot. The other option is when the round props come out. Honestly, I don't think Nunes is going to finish this thing early. I'm looking at betting a total. I'm hoping that they give us underdog money on an over, because everyone is so convinced that Amanda Nunes is going to do exactly what she did to Cyborg and win this thing by first round knockout. We may get a total of 1.5. We may get a total of 2.5 with dog money on the over. And in both of those situations, I would be very, very interested on betting an over, because I think Felicia Spencer will be durable enough to handle what Nunes brings to the table. And I think she's going to pin her up against the fence and try to grind out the clock. And I think this fight gets to the third round. So with that said, I do think Nunes wins. The angles I'm looking at are sprinkle the round props with Amanda Nunes, Nunes in rounds 3, 4, and 5, get a late knockout, that kind of thing. Or looking at the over 1.5, over 2.5, depending on where that line comes out. Right now, it's juiced to hell that the fight doesn't go to decision. So the bookmakers are expecting a finish here as well. And I know the world is expecting a Nunes KO here. So I think we're going to find some sneaky value, relying on Spencer's durability, but not quite taking that ballsy shot on Spencer as an underdog. I would like to, but Nunes is the greatest of all time. And I don't want to stand in front of her, and that's all it comes down to. I think Spencer is being a little disrespected here. But, I mean, who knows? If money keeps pouring in on Nunes and I get like some ridiculous number on Spencer, I mean, she's already, plus 465? I mean, if she gets up to like the 600 range, I might have to take a flyer on Spencer just for funsies, for shits and giggles. Because if she gets on top of Nunes, it's going to be a problem. She's the bigger woman. She's the stronger woman. And while Nunes is incredible everywhere, being on her back is definitely her weakness. That's the path to victory. So that's the way I'd look at this fight. And that concludes our preview of UFC 250. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. You all are so much fun. I love this shit. Again, please subscribe. Hit the like button if you can. Go check out Odds HQ. I'm going to be on with my boys doing a full roundtable where I get to fight and argue my points with my boys Nick, Moscream, and Jimmy the Bag. So it'll be more entertaining for me to go ahead and fire my hot takes off with people that don't agree with me. And I appreciate the support. I really do. Once again, if you like what I'm doing here, tips and donations are always appreciated. I'll put my info down in the link below. Follow me at Die Hard MMA Pod over on Twitter. I love interacting just like I do here on the chat. So if you have questions, if you have bets that you want some advice on, if you just want to talk shit and have a good time chatting about the fights and stuff like that, I'm live tweeting every single fight, every single time. So hang out with me on Twitter. I would love that. We're looking for 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So if you haven't already, please hit that button. Thank you all so much once again. I appreciate everything. Do me a favor and stay safe out there. I want to take just a minute. There's a lot going on in our world right now. There's a whole lot happening. We've still got the coronavirus. Now we have got this crisis, essentially a infighting war. And please just stay safe. Keep your loved ones close. Check in on your friends. Let them know that you love and support them. Sometimes people just need a hug. Sometimes people just need a little reinforcement. And I want you to know, no matter what your political views and beliefs are, I care and love for each and every single one of you. I believe from the bottom of my heart that we can do better than this as a country and as a world. And I just want everybody to be safe. So keep your family and friends tight. Try not to forget that the coronavirus is still floating around out there somewhere, even if you don't necessarily believe in it. But stay safe out there because there's a lot of crazy. There's a lot of crazy right now. And we are lucky enough to have some entertainment in the UFC. We are lucky enough to have some opportunity to win some cash and escape from all that on Saturday night, which I very much look forward to doing. So y'all have a great evening, and let's roll. If I could find the fucking button.